morning was being overtaken by a hazy and dull sun that had drenched Stan's jumpsuit in sweat over half an hour ago. The smell of refuse and decay would have made Stan and his partner Philip cringe had they not been immune to it as the seasoned garbage men they were. The everyday smell of the city's air pollution wouldn't have been much of a step up anyway. Stan pondered that for a moment, trying to remember if the smell of garbage ever bothered him. Even as a new worker so many years ago, he couldn't recall ever being the least bit repulsed by the varying season-sensitive smell of trash. I guess there's a calling for everyone, even for chumps with iron nostrils, Stan thought with a bit of self-disdain. Shaking off the reverie, he thought of his other daily ritual. Getting back to the plant in an hour, clocking out, and searching for the elusive answers to life's problems at the bottom of a whiskey glass later. Life had been having its way with him lately, and the stack of bills piling up next to his refrigerator at home was testament to that. His wife, Lydia, was little help since she had been laid off from work months ago. Stan had been supportive of her, assuring her daily that things would turn around. As it turns out, he had even managed to get her an interview at the waste management facility as a receptionist. She turned down the offer with a light kiss on Stan's cheek, saying she appreciated it but that she wanted to take some time off to soul search for another career choice. The product of that soul searching was the soulless pile of bills on the counter at home. He gripped the bar tighter and adjusted his feet as the truck swung around the second-to-last block of the morning route. On the very street where Stan called home. He didn't have to even think of this simple action of physical adjustment as he glanced at the spot across from him that Phil usually occupied. Phil wasn't feeling well yesterday and wasn't able to help at work today. Stan didn't mind working solo. In fact, some days he preferred it. Today happened to be one of those days. Mike, the truck driver, pulled to a stop on the first section of road that Stan had to collect from. The apartment buildings that Stan lived in were unspectacular, if not approaching the point of dilapidation. Cigarette butts littered the sidewalk and made semi-permanent residence in many of the cracks of the ill-maintained walkways. Urine streaked a wall in a ghost shape near one of the exits to the building opposite Stan's. He only really noticed this peculiarity because it was near the first pickup on his street. He hopped off and quickly made his way to the pile by the side of the truck. He always wondered how the people that shared his complex could generate so much garbage in a week. The buildings only housed 4 apartments each, there being only 4 buildings total, set adjacent and across from each other. Out of all of them, Stan seemed to make the least amount of trash every week. He glanced across the street at his 2 trash cans neatly side by side, awaiting his heaving arms. He didn't find it strange that he took pride in how his trash cans looked compared to the slobs who left the scene in front of him. Stan took pride in his professional work. Why not show some of that pride by the garbage he made, even if no one noticed? He lifted the first of many bags on this street, even noticing some French brochures that must have been left by a traveling neighbor, and threw it into the back of the truck. One bag had the audacity to rip at the bottom from his effort, leaving what must have been the contents of someone's bathroom littered on the street. Another bag burst open in the back of the truck, more French-looking papers, the contents being weeks old. He finished with his neighbor's refuse and made his way across to his complex's garbage. He began with the neighbor's, secretly relishing saving his own garbage for last. This had been the way he had always done it. Phil always gave him shit about that, wondering what sort of obsessive-compulsive behavior triggered this weekly ritual. Stan always laughed it off with a shrug. Let him wonder. He finished hauling the emptied neighbor's cans back across the street from the truck and walked up to the toters left by him the night before. Grabbing the first, he wheeled it dutifully to the back of the truck and heaved the contents into the back. No bags ripped. Nothing that should have been in any of the bags strayed into the truck's interior. Even the very bottom of the can, where time seemed to create a black residue of scum for other people's trash receptacles, was clean. He wished everyone could have been as tidy with their undesirables as he was. He returned the first can, then began wheeling the second one over. Getting to the back of the truck, he gently heaved the contents into the back of the compactor. Among the tightly sealed, perfectly tied bags from his own can, one was larger and heavier than the rest, wrapped with a professional, almost obsessive neatness. He set the empty can on the ground. He quickly pushed the yellow button that began the crushing process of all the garbage he just put in. He looked at how well his meticulous packages compared to the other ripped, careless bags and debris his neighbors had left for him. His work was clean, immaculate even. Where others were messy, he was precise. He had taken great care with his special load, ensuring there would be no leaks, no telltale signs. It was a final act of fastidiousness for someone who had shown so little care in other matters. A final, tidy solution. He was also satisfied to see that the black residual scum that lined the inside of the truck showed no unusual stains. Stan had added to the truck's load before their first stop, and 10 stops later, everything was processing as it should. The compactor gnashed its steel teeth, and for a second Stan thought he saw a familiar shape. A fold of fabric, perhaps, catch and tear before being swallowed by the machine. A moment later, an arm in a sleeve he recognized twisted up from the churning mass with a sickening, muffled crack. Then it was dragged down again, coming to rest against his own heavy, carefully wrapped bag. How fitting, Stan thought. The memory of last night's discovery on Lydia's phone flashing coldly in his mind. He smiled. Today's work was done well. The evening's whiskey would taste particularly satisfying, and perhaps he'd earned a day off tomorrow. He returned his empty can to its place by its silent partner, hopped on the truck and signaled to Mike to drive to the next pickup spot. He looked at the garbage cans of the next group of apartment complexes, remembering how much he hated all the noise those 2 college girls used to make at 3 in the morning. He licked his lips, walked to the curb and wheeled the large and heavy garbage cans to the back of the truck.